Stretching should be ballistic and dynamic, and that alone is not enough. We need to activate the cardiovascular system by getting blood pumping. We need tissues to receive oxygen and blood flow as well. We need to activate our metabolic system and get our energy systems to produce the right types of energy for the right types of movement patterns.
Welcome to the Movement Driven Podcast with Dr. Greg Goldberger, where we help you bridge the gap between pain and performance. Each week, we'll share strategies, insights, and real-life applications to help you keep moving and stay driven. Now, let's get into this week's episode of the Movement Driven Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Movement Driven Podcast. I'm Dara here with Dr. Greg Goldberger. Greg, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. What's up, Dara?
What is up? We are 2 weeks officially into 2026.
Can't believe it.
Yeah, we still got those new year, new me mindsets. Hopefully, those of you who are listening who have your 2026 goals, you are staying strong and still not giving up. And you took a really good note of the page from the last episode about just making sure that you are ready to get off the couch and level up in a smart and safe way by coming to Movement Driven and doing your yearly movement assessment. But today, kind of want to talk a little bit about warming up, whether that's running, pickleball, CrossFit, high rocks, baseball, whatever the case is. We just need some, reasonable things that you can do before you're going into your sport. So why does a traditional stretch only warm up often fall short?
Well, I'll start with, if you're doing a stretch warm up, you're already ahead of a lot of people I talk to. There's so many people I treat that don't warm up at all for like high level intensity exercise. Golfers, infamous for not warming up. I'm gonna call you guys out right away. So my biggest thing is just do some sort of warm up. If you get anything out of this episode, please just start warming up. But let's talk about how you should do it the right way too. So I think most of you, if you are warming up, you're doing very basic stretching and maybe a little bit of 5-minute jog or some high knees and butt kicks and that kind of stuff. And that's a little bit it. You do some hug'ems with your arms and some tree trunk rotations, whatever, tree trunk twists, whatever we called them when we were in middle school. And then you're like, okay, I'm good. All right. That's better than nothing, but it's not going to do anything. Like stretching alone, even stretching, what type of stretching are you doing? You should not be doing prolonged stretching before an activity, right? So the stretching we should be doing is more dynamic, ballistic type stretching, not a static hold. So what does that mean? It means doing we're walking through, we're doing knee hugs, we're doing quad stretch where we're walking, we're doing, bent over figure four, but all of this isn't walking. All of this is dynamic. Nothing is, let's sit on the floor and stretch for 30 plus seconds. That stuff is for after activity, for recovery, or for mobility things outside of the actual workout. So first and foremost, stretching should be ballistic and dynamic, and that alone is not enough. We need to activate the cardiovascular system by getting blood pumping. We need tissues to receive oxygen and blood flow as well. We need to activate our metabolic system and get our energy systems to produce the right types of energy for the right types of movement patterns. And I think the biggest thing where PTs come in is we need to be doing more muscle activity, which I think we'll get into. But yeah, stretching alone no, it's better than nothing, but it's really doing nothing for you.
Yeah. Well, you just, gave a really good example of what a proper warm up would be. There is a little bit of stretching, but then there's also, getting the heart rate ready to go. And I used to make this joke all the time when I first started doing CrossFit about how, we basically do a workout before we even get into the workout.
Right.
So
I think it's funny that you say that. I've been around a couple of trainers and I've said this to people myself. If you are not tired at the end of your warm up, then you didn't do a proper warm up. Because think about, let's just break it down. What are you warming up? You're supposed to be warm enough to start the activity. So you should be out of breath. You should be ready to go. You should be sweating. You should be oh, I'm already in it at the end of your warm up. Not okay, I'm ready to go. No, that was at the beginning of the warm up. You should have felt like that. So yeah, you need to get your body ready. You need to treat it like you're an athlete, even if it's just for a workout, even if it's just for golfing with your buddies. If you want to do these things that you love for long term, the warm-up is essential to prevent that injury.
Yeah, 100%. So, obviously, different sports, there's gonna be a different warm up, right?
Yeah.
So, how does a warm up different from what a runner would do, or a lifter, or a golfer, or, a
Mhm.
pickleball player?
Well, I would argue that even for some of those athletes, depending on what they're doing that day, the warm up is different, right? If you have a CrossFitter, it depends on what are we doing that day. The warm up might look completely different. If I don't have any overhead activities one day, well, then I'm not spending a lot of time working in that range of motion or getting my T spine to open up. Maybe it's a leg dominant day and I have to focus on that. So obviously, you need to know what activity you're going for, and
Mhm.
the trainer shouldn't have an idea of that. Your warm up should match. Um, but yeah, to your point, a golfer's warm up is drastically different than a runner's warm up. I'm not going to have my runners doing big rotation and big hip rotation and thoracic spine mobility prior. That's not going to benefit them in any way. I'm also not going to have my golfer do nearly as much, ankle mobility pre or post run as well. So, like, you have to know what you're doing in your sport and have an idea of what you need body movement wise to accomplish those tasks. And so obviously I think, seeing somebody like us, you come in, one of the things I love to do is create warm-ups for my athletes. That's something that we're doing within the first 2 or 3 visits. And the reason being is because I think so many people are getting hurt these days because of or partially at least because of a lack of a warm-up. And a lot of time what I say is like the same foundational exercises we find that are going to rehab you or prevent the injury are the same things I'm having my people do as part of their warm up, right? So I tell this to people all the time. If you were to go like an NBA game early right now, like if you got there an hour and a half before game time and you're walking around the arena and you're on the court and you're looking at the players, it looks more like a physical therapy gym than anything on that court. You have your foam pads and your Swiss yoga balls and your bands and your mobility straps and all this kind of stuff. And all these players are doing is they're doing priming of the muscle, right? And that's the thing that's missing from most people, whether you're a golfer or a runner or a CrossFitter or whatever you are, nobody's including that in the workout. And what do I mean by priming the muscle? The little stabilizers that work so well to prevent injury are the things that are often laziest on us. We can all get our big chest and our big glutes and our quads working, but when the little external rotators of the hip or the rotator cuff of the shoulder joint or all these little stabilizers, if you're not actively turning those on by getting your brain to be neurologically connected and get that muscle memory kicked on and getting a neural response to happen, then those muscles are not going to be ready to go, because all you did was fall into your same habits of the big strapping muscles. And so, like I said, when you go to an NBA game or something like that early on, it's like, oh, those guys look like they're just doing simple rehab exercises. They are simple rehab exercises, but when you do them with the intention and with discipline and with the correct form and with all of the right things, they become difficult and they become absolutely necessary for preventing tendinitis, joint arthritis, flare-ups, any types of these orthopedic things that I see all the time. Ligamentous strains, I think, are largely because we're not activating dynamic support structure around those joints and we're relying too much on ligament. And so then we sprain the ligament and whatnot. So the muscle activation priming part of the warm up is, I think, what I stress the most that people are missing the most from their warm up. And so I know I said, if you got anything from this episode, just warm up. But if you get anything, if you get a second thing, it's to do the muscle activation stuff because that's I think what's going to prevent injury the most from an orthopedic standpoint, especially as you get older.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you obviously said like it's gonna be different based off of like what workout you're doing or what sport you're playing or things like that. But is there a specific time that you would need for an effective warm up?
Well, I think that, yeah, that's a tough one because I think a lot of that depends on how in shape are you, right? Or how mobile are you, or where are you in your journey? So I think that's something that evolves. It also depends on what activity you're prepping for. Am I just running 3 miles today, or am I running a full marathon? Like that, I think your warm ups would be a little different for those two activities, even though they are the same activity. So the length of the warm up, I think we'll simplify it as: do you feel ready to do something in the middle of that activity? Like if you were prepping for football, are you ready to go score a fourth quarter touchdown or whatever it is? Like, are you in that mental and physical mindset and, physical being of feeling ready to do whatever it is that's going to be asked of you in that thing, in that next hobby or activity you're doing. So basically, to sum it up, is you should be out of breath, you should be sweaty, you should have worked on most of your body in terms of the ballistic stretching and activating some good hip joints, some good core, some good shoulder stuff, and make sure that you're ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dr. Greg, I think this is awesome. We can kind of keep this one short and sweet as well as we get into the new year. So, yeah, if you guys are not sure what you should be doing before whatever activity it is that you're playing, a good idea would be to get a movement assessment. Come see us at Movement Driven. You can visit our website, movementdriven.com, schedule a discovery call. If there's something that you want to chat with Dr. Greg about beforehand, you come in. And then we can get you ready so that you can tackle your New Year's goals safely and effectively. So thanks for tuning in, guys. And we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in to the Movement Driven Podcast with Dr. Greg Goldberger. Want to see how we're helping people in Jacksonville bridge the gap between pain and performance? Head on over to movementdriven.com. Until next time, keep moving, stay driven.